So far, the Real Game Awards nominees for Best Games Journalists are all duds. Let's start right to left here. Rosary Warrior John F. Trent has proven to be worse than the average Kotaku journalist. Instead of using intersectional feminism or some other offshoot of critical theory to view video games through, Trent's brand of social justice is just a watered down version of those ideas out there that would make the Westboro Baptist Church very proud. Here's why she seems to be the most well-meaning out of the bunch. She digs too deep and reads way too much into the stuff she really gets into, like to an insane degree. That, along with her being a VTuber, it sort of makes it difficult for most people to take her anywhat seriously. Indumia is so laughable, I would rather just play this clip highlighting how bad he is at being a serious source of information.
Like this dumbass, who has an entire video about how Warhorse Studios, which was acquired in 2019 by THQ Nordic, which is itself a subsidiary of Embracer Group, was commanded to put the woke agendas in their game. No joke, because a random guy on Twitter posted an extremely obvious and sarcastic troll tweet.
Finally, we come to Savvy. I've never seen anything outrageous from her. That's until recently. Well, not really her, little bit off. It was more when Smash JT credited her research on a group called OMG, Out Making Games, for both his website and his videos. Of course, Smash has to run with the question, not even really a claim, that Savvy makes.
Want to know who could possibly influence Rockstar Games and GTA?
And hype it up to comical proportions, like he tends to do. Yes, she proves this group, OMG, petitioned Rockstar to actually take out the so-called transphobic content that got removed pretty much from the port of GTA 5 from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. And why this is going to be a mean comparison here, that is in no way saying they're equal, either Savvy or Smash JT. A while ago, AndyPants Gaming made some sort of racket about them removing Confederate flags from the game. Why that's true, that's not on Rockstar.
In 2021, Rockstar removed all rebel flags from the game and replaced them with American flags.
Which is true, but there is cause and there is effect. He's explaining the effect, he's not explaining the cause. And the reason for these being removed wasn't because Rockstar are going woke, they're not scared, they're not extreme snowflakes. No, actually, Microsoft, PlayStation Network, and Apple threatened to remove the games from the stores and stop supporting the games on those devices if things such as the Confederate flag were in the game.
If you want to get mad at anyone for this censorship, you should be mad at PlayStation for doing this shit. And of course, Smash JT has to make it even worse by linking it to a debunked claim about US aid funding Politico to write articles about Gamergate. It's like he doesn't care about what's true and just prints what helps his narrative along. The rest of what Savvy had to say in her post about Rocksteady's relationship with this group, OMG, it doesn't surprise me one bit. I knew for a long time Rocksteady bent the knee to progressive activists. That's because I did research when everyone was trying to figure out why Suicide Squad, Guild of Justice League, turned out as badly as it did. That was when I found this. Dear Rocksteady, how well you handle sexual harassment complaints isn't up for vote, along with a whole bunch of other articles and even some videos covering the story. Back to the bent the knee to the progressive activists. Their official statement to it pretty much confirms it if you know what you're looking for. In their statement released back in 2020 due to the sexual harassment accusations made via a letter from 10 out of 16 women who worked there in 2018. I also did enough research to learn that the face of this group was one Kim Macaskill. So I almost find it funny that this group of best games journalists keep missing that Kim Macaskill, along with more than half of the women employed at the London-based video game developer Rocksteady, 2 years ago signed a letter to boss, accusing the studio failing to prevent sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior in the office. And even when doing a side quest into Rocksteady like Savvy is doing here, she would rather find ways to tie it to Rockstar rather than figuring out why Sweet Baby Inc. got in the door. The attempt to Me Too the company, like they did with Blizzard in the Cosby Room. You think we got that stupid diversity sort of index for Overwatch for absolutely no reason? No, they had to feed the masses to get their score back up for their Western social credit score. Of course, I'm joking a bit there. We aren't living in China. It just seems like sometimes a lot of people are pushing for us to, you know what, never mind. It's more about how everyone in this group of best games journalists keep missing that Kim Macaskill, along with 9 other women, took a letter to the heads of Rocksteady in 2018 accusing the studio of failing to prevent sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior in the office. Now, of course, this wasn't reported on until 2020, with Rocksteady replying to that when it came out in The Guardian. So we immediately took firm measures to address this matter that were raised. Sure you did. Probably by hiring Sweet Baby Inc. to do damage control. Because in the words of Kim Belair herself, I was starting to see there weren't a lot of ways forward, especially for women, especially marginalized identities. Oh, by the way, transphobia was one of the things that added to this in the 2018 letter sent up above. And Sweet Baby Inc. started simply as a way for myself and 2 of my colleagues to kind of work in the industry together. And this article goes on to say, for years, the video game industry has been grappling with issues of toxic behavior, sexism, and institutionalized racism, echoing conversations in other industries. As the latest high-profile example, the Security and Exchange Commission launched an investigation into Activision Blizzard, the company behind the Call of Duty franchise. Let me finish with the relevant part of the statement by Rocksteady. In 2020, we are more passionate than ever to continue to develop our inclusive culture, and we are determined to stand up for all of our staff. Remember, this was in response to their redemption arc after being accused by Kim and at least 9 other women working at Rocksteady at this time. Seems like the perfect opening for the newly formed Sweet Baby Inc., founded in 2018, to come in and grab a little piece of that pie. Because here's another quote from Kim, not Macaskill, Belair. Belair hopes to address some of the larger problems in the games industry and promote the idea that it can provide a safe working environment. This seems like a perfect fit in the prevent sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior in the office. If the glove fits, you must quit. I bring this all up because I'm sort of surprised none of these so-called journalists has really found anything about this, which makes me think they're either incredibly incompetent or there's another reason for it that I don't want to speculate on, but I'll let you use your imagination for that part. Put it down in the comments below if you want. I could understand if Kim Macaskill was a complete no one. That can't be the case because one of the real journalists from Stuttering Craig's Real Game Awards, at least one of the nominees, John F. Trent, has talked about Kim and even has a video and article out about her. But somehow he doesn't know about this incident from 2018 that wasn't really reported until 2020. I mean, I'll give him some credit. Macaskill is sort of getting her name off of a lot of things nowadays, and it's quite weird to me. But clearly it shows that he's not aware or won't actually say that it was Kim Macaskill who damaged the studio so bad that they had to bring in a company like Sweet Baby Inc. to sweep for them and probably help with the story and other things. Or maybe he was just too busy trying to find a way to push his religious views into his coverage of it without being too obvious about it. Because this is a weird article from him, former PlayStation narrative director Kim Macaskill admits that gaming studios are discriminating in their hiring practices, prioritizing women. Not going to go through it all, but I do want to highlight this certain section. In 2020, she admitted being a feminist whose ideology has demonic origins. Again, funny, he went back to research her enough to 2020, but didn't have a clue about this. Perfect chance to throw Sweet Baby Ink into the narrative that he's spinning here. But maybe this is the early days before that really hyped up. And this demonic origins links to an article he wrote earlier that year that links to another article and a National Catholic Register. I really don't know how anyone was surprised when Trent sided with Melanie Mack when the event dubbed Goonergate went down, or why they didn't realize he was a religious zealot before then. They probably knew. They probably just gave him a pass because he was good for the movement and let them be lazy because they can just read all his articles, maybe throwing in a little bit of insight here and there. I don't know. They have Smash JT for that now, so they don't need that man so much. And I have to give the woman some credit, Macaskill. She seemed to have worked on a lot of things, but it's hard to sort of pin her down on any of it. Like, it's clear she worked on Suicide Squad, Guild the Justice League, took that letter to HR, management, whatever, and either got fired or left, and said she didn't want the credit on that game. Not that I blame him now. And I have to wonder, with the new Fable, is her name going to be on the label? Because she's worked on that game, obviously. There's also something in her LinkedIn, some about narrative lead, Riot Games. Not sure on what. Given the time span, I'm thinking maybe she worked on Arcane, the Netflix League of Legends sort of adaptation. If that's so, maybe that's why season 2 wasn't so well. Never mind. Because it's frankly hard to tell what she worked on since Rocksteady. And I knew all about this before any of this Sweet Baby Ink stuff really ramped up to the point it is today. DEI detected, and Gamergate 2 was not the agreed upon term for these people going against DEI and wokeness. It was tossed around, but I guess that's what people refer to it nowadays, even if I think it's a disservice for the people of Gamergate 1. But I do find it funny that I managed to find Kim Macaskill's name pop up in a place that I did not expect, mainly due to me being curious if Kiwi Farms talked about her, since they were one of the places that talked about Sweet Baby Ink before any YouTuber really mentioned them at all. But given what it's related to, it makes a lot of sense and really gives us a little bit more context for what she laid out in Rocksteady before she got fired / quit. Official statement, she got fired. At the end of the day, I don't care. She's out and she's drifting around like a feminist rogue.
We've been going pretty hard on the Future Club gang, but it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows on Mike's end. I reached out to Kim Macaskill, who had ran her own separate investigation of internal affairs, to see what the primary issue was in order to help
That's how you say the name. I don't care. I'm still going to call her Macaskill.
convince employees on strike who already wanted to return to the company they'd invested years in. However, this was allegedly conducted under the issuance of false pretenses from Mike's lawyer. But after years of development and time to reflect, here is her updated retrospect of the situation, in full for complete transparency.
The whole story of my involvement is as follows. Firstly, I'd never heard of this company before. I've never played their games. I still haven't. I had recently outed a well-known AAA studio for harassment, and during the same month I was processing the brutal fallout, I was contacted by Andrew, company lawyer, who explained he was looking to hire a consultant for a company that was struggling with culture issues, and as he'd seen what I did with Rocksteady, he thought I'd be ideal.
The important thing to take away from this technicals video on Skullgirls is Kim Macaskill, yeah, I'm still going to call her that, was brought in by a corporate lawyer as a consult for a company that's struggling with culture issues. And as he saw what she did with Rocksteady, he thought she would be ideal for this. Now take this with a grain of salt, and I would definitely recommend watching Technical's video on the Skullgirls crap, because it's a great example of how certain progressives of a certain mindset, what we would call woke, use the sort of culture of accountability, cancel culture, to get their way. And Technical's video is so much more better than the one Short Fat Otaku did. I'm highlighting all these things just to say that these nominees for the Real Game Awards, for the most part, assuming they aren't just dumb, aren't any better than someone like Jason Schreier, who also didn't mention the 2018 sexual harassment claims that at least had one employee, Kim Macaskill, leave the company by 2019. I have no clue about the other 9 women. They aren't identified. Hell, one of them could be Kim Belair. I've just never seen her mention it, and it seems like something she would put on her resume, like McSkillet did. At least talking to the corporate lawyer from Skullgirls, according to the Technicals video. So I'm not going to just say, listen and believe a journalist like Jason, whose article does seem to be misleading, but not mentioning Sweet Baby Inc., but by bringing certain things up, like several employees adopted the term toxic positivity. I wonder why that is. And yes, maybe that's the corporate culture that Sweet Baby Inc. was brought in to establish, or to quell the concerns that Kim Macaskill and the 9 other women had about the corporate culture at Rocksteady at that time. And that might also explain why leadership didn't worry. Like, really, there's tons of articles about the sexual harassment accusations. So what if Hill and Walker said little in public to elaborate on their reasons for leaving? It's not hard to figure out why those 2 left in 2022. Given you can take a look at this article, Rocksteady co-founders Hill and Walker depart. They were obviously checked out and instead will begin a new adventure in gaming. And in that article, they even bring up Kim Macaskill's claim again, saying several of the women who wrote that letter had since left the developer, even citing Kim's exit tweet. Unfortunately, I am bowing out from Lifetime Achievement nominee for whatever. Women in games. I don't need sympathy or hatred, but simply understanding. I'm so sorry for all those who have voted at Warner Brothers. Take accountability at Rocksteady Games. You can't sweep away mistakes. Now, I'm not going to speak if those claims had any merit to them. In the wake of Me Too, it's a little hard to say, but I will say I personally see accountability culture as just another term for cancel culture. So I'm not going to just say listen and believe journalists like Jason. Is it that hard to make this connection? Maybe for Jason it is. Yes, it would be speculation, and maybe Jason wants to avoid it, but it's cowardice at best to bring up those things and not bring up those other things that would explain it. And at worst, it can be seen as running cover for how bad progressive politics is being weaponized to push those out who don't get with the message and don't bend the knee immediately. I see it as either making a big deal about it and fighting back against it, or just cowering and quietly exiting. But I could be misreading that. And also, I'm not saying automatically distrust the real Game Awards best game journalists, or at least the nominees, or anyone else really connected to Stuttering Craig. For example, Kirsch's coverage of Bridge. In concept, I think it's good for the general public to know about that particular program going on. It is just another name for DEI, just like I think accountability culture is another name for cancel culture. Gotta watch out for these name changes. And why? Yeah, she does it in an interesting way, at least to some people. I've watched a bit of it. And as I mentioned in the beginning, at least I can't take her very seriously. And I imagine other people would have similar experiences, given some of her commentary and really reading into the information that she's covering. The information's good. It's sort of concerning that they're doing this. But yeah, I think it's a little overhyped. But we all have our biases. And I do have a slight one against VTubers in general. It's just not really something I like to watch. And as for the speculations and commentary of Kirsch, maybe I could be proven wrong in the long run. Or maybe her talking about it will help it not become a reality. No clue about that. only time will tell. At the end of the day, I think people should be highly critical of both and judge them on a case-by-case basis. Basically, don't lump people all together into a collective unless you know they're part of that particular group. Because some people are individuals, pushing them into a certain camp, especially when they don't actually belong in that camp, seems a little dumb to me as an individual. But what do I know? I'm not a well-respected journalist working for one of these big companies like Bloomberg, or for Vice, or for Kotaku, or for any place else. I'm also not someone who has a lot of followers on social media. I'm just an individual who uses his YouTube channel to do various things and like to make sure what I say online is at least reflective of reality and expresses that in various ways. With that said, I'm done.